Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Broken Brand. And I'm your host, Stuart. And today we are going to be looking and reviewing Three Body Problem, now available on Netflix. Now, this is based on a trilogy book series that has been on my to read list for a long time. Uh, I first came across the book series by a YouTube channel that I started following when I was doing other research on Dune years back when before the first Dune movie came out, and a channel called Quinn's Ideas, who apparently is an amazingly avid sci-fi fan. You can tell by his content. I put a link to his channel in the description because if you want to know about Dune or you want to know about this book series, Three Body Problem, he's consumed it, reviewed it, just consumed it again, and has tons of videos explaining a lot of this better than I do, but I'm not here to go into the deep explanation of the book series. I'm here to look at the Netflix series itself. Now, last year, there was a series made in China based on the books. I have not seen it, but I do plan on trying to get a hold of it and watch it. I'm not sure exactly where it's streaming easily, so it's going to take me a while to look into that. But first things first, and I started watching this last night about, I don't know, 8 o'clock, and I would have consumed it all, but around that 3 a.m. mark, my body was just like, yeah, we can't do this anymore. But I was enthralled. So before I started it up again today, I was looking, just kind of pulled up, just scanning headlines, and a lot of people are complaining about this series, and I think it's a valid complaint. The book was written by a Chinese author and takes place all within the bounds of China with a few excursions here and there, but is primarily set in China. Netflix has taken it to where it kept the origins of how the story started in China, but moved all the major happenings to the UK and even some movement to the UN in New York City. But primarily, most of this is happening in the UK. That's a complaint. And I think that's a valid complaint. Do I wish they had kept it all Chinese and faithful to the story? Absolutely. I do. I think that would have been the correct choice. And what's done is done. So let's look at this series as it stands. I absolutely love this series. I'm gonna have to start reading the books this week. Uh, I have the first one on Kindle. I don't have the other two, but a lot of people also were complaining that it's so slow they didn't make through the first episode, and I understand that. I understand why they're like, "Oh, it's really slow," but this story is extremely complex, and based on what I've seen in this series, they dumb it down a lot. A lot of the complexity from the books. They had to have because I've read a few synopses here and there over the past month or so, just kind of get an idea. So I have a better understanding of this series before I started watching it because I knew I would not have time to read the book. And it is because there's so many factors and so many interpretations and so many reactions on how humanity reacts to the knowledge that there is an alien race coming to Earth. You have to you have to set the stage, and setting the stage is very complex. So that first episode, actually, I want to say the first two episodes are a bit slow in their pacing, but fundamental for the other remaining episodes. It's needed. And so, yes, the first episode definitely is a bit slow. You're kind of like, oh, this is kind of weird. This is kind of boring. It's nothing's really happening. It's not exciting. And it's like, oh, this isn't a fast action aliens are coming to Earth sci-fi type series or movie that a lot of people are used to. This is a existential examination from multiple faces on how various people handle the knowledge of aliens coming to Earth. And I think they did an incredible job. They show people that are we want to learn, we want to understand, we want to communicate to those to lead to alien worship. And I should pause this right now. There's probably going to be some spoilers. Heads up. Sorry, should have said that sooner. I'm not going to be breaking down the story so much, but I'm going to let some things slip about the story, and I apologize. So, if you don't want any spoilers whatsoever, stop now. Come back and watch this later. But some people begin to worship the aliens as deities almost. They refer to them as a lord and literally are expecting them to come and rule over us as inferior beings. And there's also those that are like, absolutely not. We're going to go to war. We are going to do everything to protect humanity from an invasion. And through this story, because what happens is they are a society, the aliens are a society that are, how to put this properly would be kind of hard, absolute literalists, because they have no concept of deception. And this is shown throughout this starts to be shown throughout the series. They start communicating through these devices that they don't go into, but apparently were constructed with instruction by other people here on Earth to recruit the smartest people to be part of their intermediaries to Earth, so to speak. And that's where kind of the three body problem comes from. It's actually a scientific construct, a thought experiment, so to speak, of a planet that revolves around a tri-solar system, meaning three suns, and the planet revolves around the one sun. But every now and then, that second sun will pull it away, causing devastation on the planet. And then there's also the point where all three suns will pull on the planet simultaneously, causing absolute destruction. And that's how they are recruiting people, is the smartest people, the most intelligent, and the most wise. And that's because they want to find people that could try to solve that problem, but more so the people that understand that there is no solution, but the only solution is to save the people of that planet. And that's where these Sinti come from. And I think in the book they call them Trisolarans, and they may call them Trisolarans later on. I don't know. But this is the whole basis of the novel, the whole basis of this series on Netflix, not the book series. The book series continues on from this Netflix adaptation. The adaptation is primarily book one of three. So I fully expect to see book two and book three continue, because this is just a compelling and enthralling series. But it's not for everyone. This isn't something that's like, oh, you're just going to sit down and watch. It's kind of, you sit down and watch and you try to figure things out along with everyone else and try to, basically, it's a giant philosophical project of the mind. How do you react? How would you react? How are these people reacting this way? How should they continue to react or change? How does this group need to react or change? And it goes through a lot of just this is like a massive existential crisis in a TV series. And a lot of people will not like it. There is some time jumps, and of course you have to kind of this first book covers 60, 70 years from the start to where it is now. It's about 60, 70 years. So it's got to have a little flashbacks here and there. It's not as complicated as something like the series Dark or Bodies that is multiple time jumpings. This is just more flashbacks to understand how this started and some of the major players in this story, how they got started in the connection to the alien race. And honestly, I see how people are going to hate this because it's not a fast paced sci fi horror type movie or series that a lot of people are used to. It's very slow building, it's very world building, essentially. And you have to come to the conclusion of how you would react. That's kind of what this series and the book kind of forces you to do. How would you react? And it wants to show multiple angles of how different people are reacting to this, and it's quite crazy. Like some people, it, I would never put myself in the category of ever deifying any alien species that came to us. That's beyond my nature. That's beyond my religious beliefs. I would never do that. But to see these other people on screen that are doing this, it really makes you think, what's wrong with them? But what if they're not wrong? So, like I said, this is an existential thought experiment, basically. And this ends at a certain point, which I believe is the end of book one. So, hopefully, book two and book three get made and they start soon. So, not going into huge amounts of detail, this is a very intelligent, very engaging series that probably half the people that watch it will love it, and the other half will just not, because it's not just fast paced, hard. Just it's a slow build, but it's just such an interesting and intricate story that it's just I was absolutely glued to it last night. And I, like I said, I got through the first 6 episodes. No, I didn't finish episode 6 last night. So for 6 hours, I was hooked. And I finished the last 2.5 this morning and this afternoon and was just in love with it. And I honestly think that despite the fact that they did move the story away from China, they tell a compelling story. Now, I would like to see more people review this that have read the books, have a better understanding. I'm actually going, probably after this, head on over to Quinn's Ideas and see some of his breakdown of the books themselves and see kind of how they line up. That way I can get a quick basis for what to expect in the next season and the next 2 seasons, really, if Netflix continues. I hope this is such a hit that they don't just stop. And that's my fear, because this is like telling a third of the story. And I can only imagine that book two and book three are just unbelievably complicated and just action packed. And we have not yet begun to see this, because I've had a friend or two recommend this book also to me, that they keep calling it sci-fi horror. Sci-fi horror. Not just sci-fi horror. Now, we don't see much horror in this series, in this season. We don't, which leads me to believe that season 2 and season 3 are going to be crazy and mind blowing. So I'm coming at this as a newbie, never read the books. Only consumption is I knew this story existed. I knew the basic plotline synopsis before watching this, and I absolutely love it. I think a lot of people will. But I just want people to know that watch this, and if you go watch this series, that yes, that first episode, slow build. Second episode, it's a little bit slow, but it's so engaging and so intriguing once you get that basis and understand of everything that's going on. And several plot twists I will not give away, but are like, ooh, I thought that. One of them was like, I kind of thought that. The other one was like, no, didn't see that one coming at all. And it's great. And I can't give this much praise more than this series is absolutely worth watching. And for those that are like worried about other things, there's not. There is some brief nudity. I will let you know uh, in the first episode. No, maybe the second episode, I believe. Um, Not much. There's some cussing a little bit, but what struck me is it's like they talk about smoking listed that it's mature, and yeah, there's there's suicide, there's some violence, but I wouldn't call this horror and gore. Now, I put I put the gore on, you know, right there with the violence. I think they just added that to kind of build up the MA status, but ironically, the most seen thing on this series is the smoking, which I still think is funny that it's listed as a category for this ranking of a show. Yes, there's a lot of cigarette smoking, and there's quite a bit of marijuana smoking, but in the UK, apparently that's all right. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So it is what it is. So yes, the warnings are legitimate. I wouldn't say gore. I really wouldn't. I would just put that in with the violence, uh, because several people die, and some you see, some you don't. But yeah, the result of death has some not nice things about it. So please, if you like the cerebral sci-fi and just going into just a compelling story, it really is just perfect. And like I said, just looking at each episode is roughly about an hour. Looks like six was a little bit shorter. Six and four were a little bit shorter, but it's going to take you about 8 hours to consume, and it's absolutely worth it. I mean, this was if they had released this on a weekly schedule, I probably would have been infuriated because you can't watch this episode week to week. There's so much you have to remember and so much you have to continue watching and continue calling back on your memory what happened previously, that episode to episode would just be disastrous. So that's my rundown of the Three Body Problem, now available on Netflix, and I hope it gets all the love and attention that it needs because 100% highly love this series. So until next time, my friends, as always, I love you all, and there's nothing you can do about it.